Sarvabhutasthamaatmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani Sampashyan Brahma Paramam Yati Nanyena Hetuna Sarvabhutasthamaatmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani Sampashyan Brahma Paramam Yati Nanyena Hetuna. Sarva means all. Bhutastham Atmanam. Sarva Bhutani Atmani. Sampashyan. The word Sampashyan means perceiving. By perceiving the self, Atmanam means the self. Bhutastaha, in all beings. Sampashyan Atmanam Sarva Bhutastaha. By perceiving the self in all beings and all beings in the self, one reaches the supreme Brahman, Brahma Paramam. Anyena Hetuna, na Anyena. Nanyena Hetuna. Na Anyena means Nanyena Hetuna, not by other means. So there is no other means to get to the self, to reach the supreme state, but by seeing yourself in all beings and all beings in the self. In fact, how do you understand this concept is, another name for the world is also known as Nama Rupa. Nama means names, Rupa means forms. So the world is nothing but the names and forms. Just like you go into a gold shop, what is all that you see? Names and forms, isn't it? There are different names and different forms given to the various honors by perceiving the self in all beings and seeing the all beings in the self. One reaches the supreme. There seems to be, he says, there is no other means. There is no other means but to perceive the self in all beings. Now, obviously, when he says perceiving, it is not about a certain physical perception. It is not a gross perception like I see you and you see me. Here he's talking about an inner perception. That inner perception is gained through wisdom. That's the reason we call that perception as the eye of wisdom. We call it as the Jnana Chakshu. It's a very often used terminology. So one who is endowed with wisdom has this perception of being able to identify the self everywhere. So one who identifies with the self, he sees the self in all beings. Why would he be able to see the self in all beings? Because the self is the substratum of all beings. It is that which pervades. It's like saying God is everywhere. God is there in every object and being. Since it pervades and permeates, you should be able to identify with the self, and you see the self. You see the self in all beings and see all beings in the self. Just like I see myself in every part of my body. If I see myself from head to toe, I say the head is me, the limbs are me, the toes are me. So if any part of the body is hurt, I see myself hurt, isn't it? Even by mistake, when the tongue gets hurt while you are chewing food, sometimes the tongue gets bitten by the teeth. You don't complain. Would you complain at the teeth to have bitten the tongue? Or you complain the tongue to have come in between the teeth? Whom do you blame? You say you can't blame anyone because both are me, isn't it? The teeth is mine, the tongue is mine. You accept it. So there is an acceptance, there is an understanding because you see yourself in everything and you know every part of your body is me. So there is, you see yourself in every part of your body and you know every part of your body is yourself. So you see yourself in yourself. And wherever there is this perception of oneself, there is no abhorrence, there is no animosity, there is no hatred, there is no friction, there is no otherness. Wherever there is this sense of perception of oneness, there is no abhorrence, there is no friction. Why is there no abhorrence or friction or animosity? Because there is no otherness. The otherness diminishes. And wherever there is an otherness, there comes about a friction. And we create a friction with the world because you don't have an identification. Now, when you say you don't have an identification with the world, that doesn't mean everybody should understand you and everybody should love you and everybody should think along with you. That doesn't mean that. It's very much possible that there are people who don't think along with you or disagree with you, or they may not feel the same way you like. You respect that, okay, that's all right. But you have no feeling of abhorrence towards others. See, on the contrary, if someone caters to your feelings and if you like them, that is not identification, isn't it? When somebody loves you and you love them for that, is that love? It is transactional love. I hate you because you don't cater to me. That is what do you call that? I love you because you cater to me is transactional love. I hate you because you don't cater to me is? Harish, what do you call that?
Guruji, I would think it's conditional love.
It's the same thing, isn't it? It's transactional love, it's conditional love. Either I love you or hate you because you don't cater to me or satisfy to me is because a condition or transactional. But if I have no feeling of otherness towards you, irrespective whether you cater to me or satisfy me, irrespective whether you scratch my back or not, sure. But I'm ready to scratch yours. So there should be a difference between a feeling of identification vis-a-vis that expression of love. There's no need to be able to feel or express that love. You don't need to express it. It's like you admire all wildlife. Let's say if you are someone who loves nature and wildlife, you admire, you go into the let's say you go to the zoo, the way you express your appreciation or love or your fondness for the wildlife is different, isn't it? You keep a safe distance from a poisonous snake or a carnivore. I mean, you have any less love for it? So what they are saying is identification with the world does not mean you must express the love evenly to everybody. They're two different things. Oh, just because I'm an admirer of the wildlife, doesn't mean I go into the a den of a carnivore. I only wanted to express my love towards it. You will be mauled and eaten and devoured by the tiger. You can't. Don't be foolish. So this is a difference between identification and expression. You don't have to express your feelings, but the test to this is there is no hatred towards other being. Just because you don't love me, why should I hate you? Okay, you choose to be cold to me. I keep away from it. Okay, that's your personality. I have nothing to do with it. Just because you love me, tomorrow if I love you, that is transactional. So you must differentiate between how do you, because we'll have a problem of application of this quality. How should I be able to identify with every being? You will have a problem with that because there will be some people you will not be able to identify. So the acid test here is you should not have any animosity towards other beings. I'm only trying to give an applicability to this quality, because when he says perceiving the self in all beings, it only means you identify with the self everywhere, which means you see a common denominator. You love the self with everybody, like you're an admirer of all animals, but you will keep a distance from certain animals. You would go closer to certain animals and you're comfortable patting them or comforting them, but you have to keep a certain distance and appreciate a certain animal. Exactly the same way, you may have a similar feeling for everybody. The acid test to the failure of identification is the moment there is a hatred or animosity towards any particular being, you're gone. You fail. So there are two things we're saying. One is identification vis-a-vis expression of that feeling. Secondly, we are saying there is this quality of no animosity. So the moment you feel animosity, that's the failure to this quality. And why is it that we are not able to identify with anybody? That at times we are able to identify, and at times we're not able to identify. Why is it that we find it difficult to identify with certain people? Reddy Garu, why you think you are not able to identify?
Guruji, because we have our own strong vasanas, our own behavior, our own thoughts. We would like to align everybody in line with our thought process. That's where the gap comes. So that could be the fundamental first and most way where we differentiate. We can't identify the people.
So we are expecting the world to identify with you rather than you identifying with the world.
Yes, yes.
So I have a vasanas of my own, and I want the world to identify with my vasanas. So in essence, I'm identifying with myself. Yes. I'm not identifying with the world. Yes. You know. So you identify with your own individual self, which is your body, mind, and intellect. That limits your identification with the world.
I think the Guruji here, we need to bifurcate that our self-identification has to limit with the boundary of our body. I mean to say, what I'm thinking in this context could be because we have to restrain ourselves to the periphery or the boundary of body so that we'll not get propagated in terms of the thoughts and everything. So in which we will have a very objective and neutral in getting associated with others. Because we are percolating our thoughts, ourselves, our views, and expecting others also to be fall in line.
I'm afraid I don't get you.
No, when we're talking about identification, so the identification with others can be able to more practical. Our values, our vasanas, or whatever we have thoughts and process should limit we creating a boundary as a body as a boundary. We have to limit to ourselves. So so that we can more openly invite the other views, others' opinions, or other vasanas neutrally. We cross our boundaries and we propagate that more, and we expect others also should be fall in line. Is where always we find a challenge. Maybe I'm not able to explain you more in such a way.
I don't know if somebody else is able to understand. I'm a little struggling, sir.
No, my point is that now here we're talking about we are not able to align to the world. Am I right? I mean to say we expect the world to be aligned to our views. That's one area.
Yes, correct.
The fundamentally where we have the challenge there. So how is that there is no limitation for our thoughts? We are limiting boundlessly and we are trying to propagate our thoughts universally in terms of expecting others to fall in line. So somewhere we need to create a barrier.
Where is the barrier? The barrier is identification with oneself, isn't it?
Yes. So I'm saying oneself is the one where we cannot create a barrier. I mean to say we cannot create a boundary. I am saying that the boundary is the body. I'm talking in the physical body has to be taken as a reference. I'm just taking as a reference that we need to curtail within our the shape and body, so that's where we have to try to say. Mind is something propagates. I'm sure that we may not be able to have a boundary for that, but we are trying to bring in an example. We bring in a reference, say that as much as we have the body and the size, that could be the limiting factor. Maybe I'll may be able to explain a little more in depth later.
Unless you are saying that we are creating a boundary to the physical personality.
Yes, Guruji.
And if we go beyond the body, if you go to the mind, the boundaries disappear the moment it's the mind.
Exactly, Guruji.
You go beyond the mind, you go to the intellect, the boundaries further disappear.
Right.
You go to the self, there's no boundary at all.
Yes, absolutely.
So the lowest you can identify is with your physical body. Superior to that is identifying with the mind. Superior to the mind is the intellect. Superior most is the self. Is this the line of thought that you're thinking along?
Exactly. Exactly, Guruji. I could not explain further.
Right. So the moment the identification is with the physical body, then if the world doesn't cater to your physical personality, then the friction is maximum. But when you identify with the mind, the mind has a certain feeling. The moment it matches the feeling, a common factor, there is lesser friction, and so on and so forth. If you get to the self, the friction is least friction.
That's true.
So the friction, right, sir? So the friction here is arising is because we are not able to identify with the self. We are identifying with our individual personalities. But the point we are also making is, even if you have an identification with everyone, the manifestation of the identification is different. You must differentiate between identification and manifestation of your identification. See, I identify with everybody here, but I'm also able to understand that each of you have a personality of your own. So when I'm able to apply that quality of identification, the way I relate to each of you is different. But the moment I say, oh, I don't like Amitama for what she's doing, that means there is an element of negativity or hatred or non-acceptance of you. And to that extent, my individual personality comes into the equation. Because your Amita is not satisfying me in some way, therefore there is that friction or animosity or hatred. But if I say that irrespective you are able to satisfy me or not, I have an identification with you, but because of your personality, I keep a distance. It's like saying she has got a very aggressive personality. Example. So I say, why should I get to her and unnecessarily create friction? The best way is to keep a distance and let her be what she is. Even if she doesn't satisfy me in any way, there is no animosity in me. So the application of this quality is where there is no animosity in your heart. To that extent, there is upholding of the quality of identification. You uphold the quality of seeing the oneness is where there is no animosity when it doesn't satisfy or cater to you. So the moment the animosity comes in your heart towards anything, any being, any person in particular, that means the test of identification fails. The test of oneness fails. Correct, Shiva. Because as you don't entertain a personal raga dvesha, which is likes and dislikes, the word respect to whether it satisfies you or not, you are above it. It is their personality, it's their vasanas, it is to do with them. I have got nothing to do with it. If you identify with any person or any being, they say, if you identify, there was a Swami who identified with his cattle, and the disciple saw marks of lashes on his back. So the disciple was very concerned. How is it that the master, the guru, was hurt so badly, that all lashes on his back? When the disciple asked the guru said that he had total identification with the cattle. And he asked, did he use a lash to whip the cattle that morning? And his identification was so much, the disciple said, yes, I used the whip, I lashed the cattle, I whipped them up. And the result of that is there were marks of that lash on my back. So the guru taught the lesson of how to express that feeling of love to the cattle. Can you not be humane? When you have identification, you will have lashes on your back. What gives joy to other gives joy to you. What gives sorrow to other gives sorrow to you. That identification you feel. But if you have no identification, what would happen? On one end of the factory, the cow is entering. Other end, it comes back in tins, in beef tins. And then you'll have leather upholstery, leather bags, leather wallets. Other day, one of our students gifted a leather bag. It was, he said, one of the beautiful bags it was. And he immediately asked him, "Sir, is this a leather bag?" He said, "It's one of the purest leather." I said, "Can I not accept it, please?" I didn't accept it. It was returned. He gave it unmindful, but I should be mindful of what I receive. He gave it with love, but should I accept it? Where did that leather come from? The cow entered on one side, the other side leather came out. That is a result of non-identification. If you don't identify, you will find them as a food on the dining table just to satisfy your palate. There is no taste of food before it touches the tongue. There is no taste after it passes the tongue. Yet for that 1 inch palate taste, you don't have any feeling that you go and cause harm to them. You may say, I am not going and hunting, I am not killing them. But then are you not creating the demand, please? Where there is demand, there is supply. So to that extent, I am instrumental cause for that suffering. So where there is identification, you will exactly feel the same way. You will not subject to that. Yes, UK? What is the context of your question?
Namaste, Guruji. Like many a times, you need to interact or work along with people with whom you may not have that exact identification. Although you don't differentiate or anything, but still you will have to interact or work with them or that kind of it, live with them. Then how do you manage your? How do you manage that? You said that manifestation of the identification need not be there. In this case, how will you manage?
It's pure obligation. I have to work with you, I have to live with you, I'm obliged to that you do it.
Then is it not a constant friction, Guruji? How do you mold yourself to accept the other person?
See, friction comes only when there's an expectation. You expect that person to behave in a particular manner. You expect other person to satisfy you in a particular manner, cater either to you materially, cater to you physically, align with you emotionally, or align with you intellectually. That's the reason there is this friction. But if say there is no axe to grind as far as you're concerned, I don't want anything from you, but I have no choice but to, I can very well choose to be independent. You can tell that partner, I can move on. I don't need you. I don't need you materially, physically, emotionally, intellectually. I don't need. But I'm there because I feel I'm obliged to be there. I'm an obligation. So the moment you have no axe to grind, the moment you realize that you are independent, what would happen? You are neutral, isn't it? The problem comes in when you have an axe to grind, when the other partner, other person doesn't cater to you, you complain. There's a friction, there's animosity, there's hatred. But as if you are a neutral platform, it's like you have to share, it's like you have to share a long flight with someone who is an unknown stranger sitting next to you. There is a certain efficacy, there's certain mannerisms that because we all are traveling in the same flight for that destination, to reach the same destination. You're obliged to sit because he is also a co-passenger. Beyond that, have you got any bondage?
No.
Why are you tagging him or her along with you? That he or she should cooperate or listen. He has his own personality. See, it's very easy. When do you develop an attachment? If the world is kind to you, isn't it? If someone gives you love, what's the most demanding thing? Is to be detached. If somebody is not kind to you, they have been very helpful to you because they are helping you not to be attached to them. So I would appreciate people if people don't give you love. That means I don't have to be attached to this person. Otherwise, unnecessary bondage. Oh, this is so sweet, so kind, so considerate, so much love, so understanding all the time with me. I am unnecessarily binding myself to the person. So be thankful if the world doesn't like you, because to that extent, you're dropping that part of the world. No. It's a blessing, If somebody is not cooperating with you, it's a blessing. Forget it. That is their life. That is their personalities, their vasanas. As far as you're concerned, you don't have to carry your mind. Why are you carrying that person? Don't you think so? It's a blessing.
Partly, yes, Guruji.
Because not partly. That means you only agree partly with me.
Because the work has to be done. So unless the other person cooperates or whatever it is, the work cannot be done. Then how do you face it?
If it can't be done, so be it. If work cannot happen, you will have to find another partner. If I can't live with my spouse, I choose another person to live with, or I move on. Rather than sitting and complaining, cribbing and quarreling and fighting every day, the law has given you a ways and means. Get divorce, peacefully divorce, and live your life independent. Not necessary that you are meant to live and die that way. Which law says that you must continue to live and die complaining and cursing and short of killing each other every day? Which law says that that's acceptable? No law acceptable. There's nothing as 100% compatibility. You may give your best, but if the other person is not willing to cooperate, you respect that person's choice to be independent and you move on. There's nothing as right or wrong. If you and me get together to do a job, and if you are not cooperating, I don't have to forcibly drag you along. I don't have to make a burden of you on my head and suffer every day. I can liberate myself, isn't it? That's the smartest thing I can do, is liberate myself from unnecessary pain. Choose a partner who can cooperate with you.
In case of a place of work or something, when you can do that on your own, then how will you manage?
I don't get you.
In a place of work, in an office or a company, you are supposed to work with certain colleagues who are not very cooperative with you, or who, the work has to be done. It's not for your personal reasons. Then how do you manage in those kind of situations?
How do you manage with a poisonous snake?
Okay. Just keep away. Keep a distance. Keep distance and handle. If you have to go handle the snake, you know how to handle a poisonous snake, because there are people who handle poisonous snakes. They have the knack of handling. You don't go and pat a king cobra. Other day, a video came by somewhere in Thailand, in a zoo. A guy was holding a python, okay, and they gave the encouragement to the lady to come and touch it, and feel the skin of the snake and touch it. And she felt comfortable and she was posing for photographs. And then she went one step further and she went to kiss the snake on its mouth. And even though the cobra, the python was facing this way, and this lady was approaching, and
they sense heat.
Yeah.
This python in particular, even in pitch darkness, they sense their prey based on vibrations of the ground and the heat. So what they were rationalizing, they found that the snake found a body in heat approaching it. So it attacked, even though that fellow was holding it,
Yeah.
it got hold of the face of that lady, and that lady was seriously injured. Because, a python is non-poisonous snake, but it has got close to 100 odd teeth invertedly pointed. So once it grips, it starts pulling the prey inside. That's how it consumes and kills the prey. So they had to push the python back into the face so that to unlock the teeth, which are reversely pointed, and the amount, the fangs and the teeth. Cobra doesn't have fangs. The python doesn't have fangs. It only has the teeth. Non-poisonous. No? So I'm telling example, how foolish can that lady be to go and kiss you? Why would you want to fall prey if you have a fellow who is as manipulative, as aggressive, as dangerous as a python or a poisonous snake? You must keep your safe distance and deal with that person.
Okay.
Don't complain. Why is that fellow like that? You can't say why is he not cooperating. That is his nature. You want to get things done. You will have to be your kindest self. If you want some favor from that person, his department has to approve. You will approach with no ego at all. No ego at all. You will approach as if a devoted student is approaching his humble master. Very humble, you go to him and say, sir, I have submitted one document for your kind consideration. Can you please approve? Okay, I'll look into it. You understand that will be his reaction, but you will have to. So you have to get things done.
Yeah.
Because you need everybody's cooperation. But if somebody is not cooperating, at least you can do your best. There will be all kinds of people, but you will have to understand them as their vasanas and go ahead and do what is needed to deal with them so that you do not become a victim of their actions.
Yeah.
Remember, you should not become a victim of their actions. That depends on how well you have assessed their personality. If you assess them well, you will have no accidents. But inwardly, you must be self-sufficient.
Yes, that is very important. Yeah.
If other person doesn't cater to you, so be it. I don't need it. You tell yourself, I don't need it. I can do without it. And you must develop that capacity to be independent. So don't allow yourself to be manipulated by others' emotions.
Yeah.
You have the strength to walk at any time. But you are doing because you have an obligation. I do what I need to do. Okay? When difficult fellow is, some difficult fellow is there, you understand him as Python or King Cobra, no problem. And if somebody is not good to you, understand, I don't have to develop an attachment to that person. The problem is somebody is kind to you.
True.
If somebody is not kind to you, thank God that person is not kind. No, I don't have to develop any attachment, because the moment you know where when you like something, your mind develops attachment to it.
Yeah.
When you don't like anything, your mind detests it. You reject it. So there's no attachment. There's no thought flow. So there's no attachment. Okay. So partly or completely now?
It's completely good.
No, completely, yeah. Right. Gayatri is saying, Both are serving the organization, no personal agenda. You have nothing to do with the person. Yes, you have nothing to do with the person. You only have to interact with the person for the
As far as the
objective,
work
which
is
is the
concerned.
organized
Yeah.
work is concerned. So, but you have to deal with different people. How do you deal with people? Understanding their vasana, isn't it? Okay. Yes, Samitama.
Sir, thank you for that explanation about dealing with people you can't identify with. But going one step further, isn't this mantra also saying that we have to see that oneness, there is ourselves in others and others in us? So from a practical perspective, it's okay to say that we are here for the same organization, and I don't need to agree with you, but eventually it's the company's goal and all of that. But if you look at the concept of what we have just learned about otherness and oneness, eventually, are we not, this knowledge, right? Are we not aiming towards also seeing that oneness in those people who are different, who are who may have different viewpoints and different ways of working and stuff. So how do we, it's okay from a practical perspective to say I stay away from such people and I don't need to be attached, but eventually are we not aiming for that oneness? That's my question, sir.
Now, see, any quality has to have a practical applicability. That is what we said. When you have a feeling of oneness, that oneness does not mean you must express that oneness to everyone in the same way. Like I said, you admire all beings, but you can't express your love to all beings the same way. The love you express to your pet dog is not the same way you express a love to a neighbor's dog, because you don't know that. But it's a wonderful breed. Let's say the neighbor has got a Doberman, and they are very ferocious breed. But you admire for what they are, but you admire from a distance. The only test for identifying with the world is where there is no identification, there is animosity in your heart towards that person or being. Now, is there an animosity towards that person or being? If I see the self in you, why should there be animosity? I see myself in you. Like, would I hate my tongue for coming in between the teeth, or would I hate my teeth? No, I see myself. There is no hatred. It happens. That is what it is. Like, if I identify with you, I understand it's her vasanas. She's an aggressive person. What else can I expect her to be? She's an emotional person. At times she'll be swinging in emotions. I understand. So identifying with the self does not mean you start pouring out your love and become victim of others' actions. I identify with you, but you don't see the self in me, no? So identifying with the self doesn't mean you become stupid, you become a doormat where you have to face all what the world throws at you. No, you see the oneness. Means the test of oneness, I'm repeating again and again, the test of your perception of oneness is irrespective of the world, what the world does to you, in your mind, there is no hatred. If somebody chooses to not love you, you respect their decision not to love you. If someone chooses to pour out their love to you, you accept what they are because they're vasanas. But your attitude towards whether they love you or hate you will not change. That is your test of identification of oneness. But if you love them and hate them, when they give love or hatred to you, that is transactional love. That's what we have said. Are you able to see the point, Amitama?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So that's the constant aspiration for us, that irrespective of whether there is love coming from the other side or understanding from the other side, our goal, and that's where this knowledge is taking us, is to be able to transcend that, right? And continue to see that wonder. Okay, I get it. Thank you.
And that's possible only when you are less selfish.
Yeah. Okay.
When you rise beyond your body to the mind, to the intellect, to the self, as you become more unselfish and selfless, your actions become a giver. Your actions will be obligated. Whatever you're obliged to, you don't mix emotions with action. You're doing what you're obliged to do at all times. At the same time, your mind is pure. There is no hatred in your mind. So as long as you can ensure, irrespective of what the world does to you, is there a feeling of otherness or hatred in your mind? Please check that.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So the quality of seeing the self does not mean the expression is the same. Expression varies. The feeling is the same. You admire a carnivore from a distance. You will not go close to the carnivore. That doesn't mean you admire it any less. You don't hate a carnivore. You know, in the wild, they usually when the easiest of prey, young born, or who are not able to whether it's the deer or the wildebeest or this gazelles, the easiest are when they are little, they don't have the strength to run. And you find these tigers and these leopards and these cats, wild cats, they catch them. And these little fawns or little deer, they are just few days old or a month or two old, and they're so, and you find that tiger tears them up and is all being captured on the screen, and tiger tears it and eats it. Now, do you hate the tiger for that? In fact, one of the most difficult moments this cameraman they have is to capture those moments, because they see it happening right in front of their eyes. Whose side will they take? They take the side of that innocent deer, or will they deprive the cat of its food and livelihood? That's his life. The tiger doesn't feel guilty. So you're caught up in this play of nature, and then they say, oh, we are just a mere witness to everything that's happening. We have to accept everything, accept the ferocity of the tiger, accept the naiveness and the innocence of that little deer. But you see the plan of nature and you just admire and capture it. You don't get involved, just admire it from a distance. Those are the very philosophical moments. These cameramen, they say, you get into the minds when they interview. They say, these are the very delicate moments. It's a play of nature. You can't take sides. You just have to stand apart and watch. Similarly, in life, there will be people who accept you. There will be people who reject you. You have got nothing to do with them. But as far as you're concerned, you have no animosity in your hearts. Just because you love, you have that feeling of oneness, does not mean you must be understood and accepted. This is what I'm saying. I said this earlier, I'm saying the same thing. Just because you have a feeling for other person doesn't mean it should be reciprocated, it should be accepted, or you should be understood. Just because you're not understood doesn't mean you must have a hatred for them. Just because you don't understand me, should I hate you for that? Or just because somebody loves me and accepts me, should I put them on my head and celebrate? This is being swayed by, this is transactional love. irrespective of what the world does, my feelings for them remains the same. That is a test of your establishment in the self.
Thank you, Guruji. Yes, that was a
Okay, ma'am.
beautiful example. Thank you.
Thank you. What is that language you're speaking, Shivaji?
There
Yes, sir.
is no favor given or looked upon.
Sorry?
There is no favor. There's no favor that you are giving or you are looking for any favor. That's quid pro quo. There's no question of you are not expecting, they are not expecting. Both are.
Is it English or is it French or what?
I think it is French. It's a very standard phrase we use most of in our.
Most of where?
I think we use it even in our country, world over, we use that. There's no quid pro quo. Normally, when a politician gets something back, we say there's a quid pro quo.
Right. So no
Latin, it's in Latin.
Quo.
It's Latin.
Right, sir.
What for what? Something for something. That's the exact meaning.
I get it. Right. Ramji, you've been a witness whole class today, sir.
Very well, sir. No, I was absorbing all this. There is a lot of philosophy and practical application both in today's class. And I have seen all this through my career and through this thing that, even in businesses, organizations, when you have to promote somebody to higher position, you will always give preference to somebody who can get along with people. Right? I think in many cases that takes a higher rating than somebody who is more competent. Because I have seen so many competent people being so arrogant and unable to get on with others. And there are some people who can get on with others. And I think the difference is this only, that how you look at others and look at others as you should genuinely feel for others. This is something I realized throughout the career, that some people put on a show of liking others, and people can make it out very easily. If not today, they will make it out tomorrow. But you must develop the art of genuinely liking others, and liking means what we have been just talking, that identifying and providing for their own way of doing things and accepting that, and then but still working with them and making that relationship work, a working relationship work. So you will find that many companies, many organizations, the top people, when they reach, they are of that type. They would have understood that. And it comes from philosophy, it comes from practical application, it comes from different sources they pick up and then they do it. I think that is a very important character, whether it is in work or in life. One has to have that. You have to have a space in your thing for different behavioral patterns of others, but be neutral to all of them. I think that is a very important character one must have. And I think also at certain stage it comes out of feeling secure within yourself. I find that a lot of people who have a lot of insecurity within them tend to be more, those love and hate express themselves very clearly. But those who are very secure inside, and that security feeling inside comes through philosophical application of things within yourself. And then if you are very secure inside, you will treat everybody else with a sense of I used to have a boss. He used to tell me that look at the world around you with a sense of humor. just observe and enjoy how people behave, but don't get affected by that. He used to just tell me that, and I think that is a very good advice I got from him. So I think it is something you have to cultivate, and cultivate over a long period of time it takes. It cannot happen overnight, and you have to cultivate through going higher than mind and intellect, and then applying that universal acceptance of everybody into your system. So it's a very difficult exercise. Very hardly 10% people can do it. It's a very difficult.
It is a difficult exercise. I think that the best thing, I like what you said, is when you find that there is that you said that there is that fullness within you. You don't feel insecure.
Security. Yeah, you feel
I
secure
think,
when you are full. Yeah,
full, and then you are only a giver. You give your
Correct.
best to everything. So from that positivity, when you deal with people, when you're insecure, you are only thinking about yourself, and then you are with people, you create groups. As I said, you also end up promoting people who may not be competent because they are just trying to butter you, or they are your favorites. So all that unfair things happen, but holistically, and you said rightly so, but when you evolve as a leader, I think it reflects in the way you manage your work and your team, and the lack of partiality comes in, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah, right.
And some people are experts at that. It is really
See, expert in the sense, because as a human, they are evolved, isn't it?
exactly.
Like the boss you said, you just look at life and entertain yourself with everybody that's happening. It's free. You don't have to switch on the TV. It's a live entertainment going on. It's a drama. It's a theatrical drama going on, and you sit and watch all the drama going on around you, isn't it?
Absolutely, sir.
So you had a lot of entertainment right throughout, sir.
I had a lot of
drama,
fun throughout my career. I had a lot of fun observing all the people.
The difficult thing is to become an observer. Once you become an observer, everything is a full-time entertainment.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Your mind should not get involved in that. That is the thing.
Absolutely. Correct, sir. Sir, from now on, Usha Ma also is going to observe you, sir.
That she has been doing, sir, for the last 40 years now.
Right. Now she's going to a little different level. She's going to observe you, sir. Right. So I think the verse, though, puts it from an absolute perspective, it only has a relevance when you bring it a sense of applicability. So please keep revisiting this idea. It will help immensely. Okay. We'll come back. Okay. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om.